of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight? For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that that flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? And now please join me in the Jewish Israeli national anthem. Kol b'leva pnima nefesh Yehudi almiya lefatei mizrach kadima ayin l'tzion Sophia ad lo avda tikvateinu Shinot Alpayim, Liyot Habshir, Beratzeinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim, Liyot Habshir, Beratzeinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim.
Without any further delay, the Honorable James James.
So now we know how you really feel, man.
Borough President James Otto.
I thought you were more a Guy Molinari guy than a James Mo, but I am not the greatest borough president there has ever been. There have been 15 of us, and there have been a few who were better. But we do have a wonderful staff that for the last 6 years has gotten to work day and night to try to make Staten Island a little better place. And we do that in ways big and small, in ways that are really substantive, and sometimes in a way that is just symbolic. But the symbolism means a lot. So let me begin just by welcoming all of you to Borough Hall, welcoming some of you, many of you back to Borough Hall. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome to this amazing building. And thank you for sharing a part of the holiday with us. I think it's particularly important that you do that, and you do that in a public setting. The overriding sentiment we should all have at this time of the year is joy. This is truly a happy occasion. We get to spend time with the people we love, the people we're closest to. Sometimes those people are even our family. But we get to spend time with the people who are most precious to us, and we should enjoy that. So I don't want to lose the sight of joy. And I understand that this is the Festival of Lights. But for a moment, just for a moment, I want to go into the darkness and sort of into the shadows because it needs to be said. Earlier this week, District Attorney McMahon and I had the leadership of the 4 precincts on Staten Island and some of the leadership of the NYPD here with various rabbis and leaders of the Jewish community on Staten Island, including these 2 fine gentlemen to my right. And we talked about what's happening in the world with greater frequency. Now, if Rabbi Lehrfield were here, he would tell you we did a lot of preaching to the choir, and we certainly did not come up with fixes to what has been a problem for a long time. But I do think that there was value to our coming together, because it is a reminder that while we do have to undertake more efforts to get to the kids when they're young before the adults instill the ignorance into them, and while it is difficult, it may be impossible to yank those people full of hate and shake them from that, we can focus on what we control. And what we control is our own behaviors in our own little universes. So this holiday, this gathering today is a reminder for each of us in our own little worlds to show more patience, to be more empathetic, to demonstrate more gratitude, to be better with our friends, with our family, with our parents, with our children, and maybe to the stranger that we meet. And maybe if we shine our light a little brighter, maybe, just maybe, we can chip away at those shadows and at that darkness. And the fact that we all are getting together in a public venue is important. I'll close with this. Many years ago, I made the terrible decision of going to law school. Took the bar exam, passed it on the first time, had my law license sitting there under 14 inches of dust. I may shake it off in a couple of years now that I'm looking for a job. But I have to do something that's called continuing legal education. You have to, every 2 years, certify, you have to take classes. So, fortuitously enough, last week one of the classes I took was about hate crimes. And the woman giving the class said that hate crimes, the person that is inflicting that hate crime, is not doing it to that individual necessarily. He is normally trying to send a message, an ugly message, to a larger community, to the greater community. And therefore, the response to those hate crimes has to be a community action. Well, tonight's event is a small part of that community pushback. Tonight, we send the message out that on Staten Island, across New York City, across this country, we in fact are one, and we celebrate our diversity. So I will close. I went on too long. But these moments are coming to an end, and I want to relish them. So I wish each of you a very happy holiday. I hope it's filled with peace and joy and love and happiness and fun. Thank you for being here.
Very welcome, important people. I want to just emphasize that preaching to the choir sometimes is not preaching to the choir. The amount of phone calls we receive and concerns, and how you eloquently address those concerns. The borough president is not looking for the accolades, but from this very pulpit, we stood many times for all type of occasions. And when the Jewish community felt terror in Jersey City, the comforting voice of the borough president calling us, how can we help, how can we spread confidence, is more than talking to the choir. We can publicly say right here today that this borough president, our elected officials in the room, the NYPD, the fire chief do care, and they're doing their utmost. And that confidence is the most important thing as an American to say two words: thank you for your leadership, Mr. Borough President. Fire chief of the borough of Staten Island, Kevin Woods, Chief Woods. Agriculture Security Chairman, Ari Weiss, and Staten Island Showroom. Assembly Member, Nicole Maliatakis. Very good friend, fighter of hate and evil. Whenever an anti-Semitic or any anti-act happens in the city of New York, the first one to stand there is Imam, my brother, Tahir Kukai. And I was with the rabbi's rabbi, Rabbi Michael Miller from Jewish Relations Council, Wayne Rosenfeld from East Midwood Jewish Center, Josie, good to see you. Josephine Marino, Community Council, 120. We have a few reps in the room. Before I go further, we have the Honorable Rabbi A. Biederman from Uruk, Congregation Uruk. We have sponsor tonight. Rabbi, take a bow. We have Rabbi Ivry, Torah congregation. We're getting there. We also have the esteemed Rabbi Dr. Judah Newberger, scholarly rabbi of Staten Island. I always say he could be any university president, including Yeshiva University president. Amen. My good friend sitting in the back hiding with Violet and Jasmine, my dear friend Assemblyman Michael Cusick. I see some reps over here tonight. I see Tom Scariello, I think I got it correctly this time, from Dr. Cuomo's office. Brendan Patterson from Senator Savino's office. Genesis, where are you, Genesis? You hide, you make change your chair. I had to, my mind, Genesis Gonzalez from District Attorney McMahon's office. And a wonderful Bishop Burrows, Kojo's Bishop. Good to see you here this evening. We're soon going to light and hand over the candle to the microphone to Scott, but take a quick moment of silence to reflect upon the martyrs. The poor storekeeper who gave his life in the rescue of his fellow person. As the people were fleeing the store in Jersey, he could have escaped. Instead of escaping, he held the door open that cost him his life. Keep in mind the storekeepers and the victims and their families and the police officer and the family. This Hanukkah season, this Christmas holiday, when they observe, they're going to be missing a loved one. Let's keep that in mind for a quick moment. May the Lord have mercy that such acts of violence, hate, and anti-Semitism be a thing of the past. And the glow of the Hanukkah lights shall enlighten all of those who have hate in their hearts to realize their error and to use that negative energy for peaceful purposes to make this world a better place. Amen.
Thank you, Mendy. Mendy ran over, the borough president ran over 4 minutes, Mendy ran over 8 minutes. It's not my fault, Mr. BP, I promise you.
You're a lousy MC.
You can volunteer your time and we'll move right to the line of
No, I'm not, I'm not gonna yield my time.
Oh, enough for that already.
I would be remiss if I didn't invite up here for a few words from what I call the hardest working rabbi in show business. That's Rabbi Michael Miller. If you could honor us with one.
I don't know whose 2 minutes I have. There's a wonderful question which is asked, which I might have asked here in Staten Island, but I didn't give the following answer. The question is, as we all know, the story of Hanukkah is that the temple was defiled by the Assyrian Greeks. The Jews came back. They were able to recapture the temple. They came into the temple, and there was only one jar of oil left. That jar was for only one night in a 7-branch candelabrum, and it lasted for 8 days. Thank you, Joseph. 8 days. So the question is, since they had a jar that was going to last for 1 day, why don't we celebrate Hanukkah for 7 days? Because the miracle was only 7 days, it wasn't 8 days. There are many, many answers to this question given by rabbis dating back hundreds of years. And one of the answers, it dates back to the 18th century, is that actually there wasn't just one miracle, something exactly what the borough president was talking about. There were 2 miracles. One miracle is the one that I mentioned, the miracle of the oil. Lasted miraculously for an additional 7 days. The other miracle was the fact that this small band of Jews living in this country who were occupied by the Assyrian Greeks were able to conquer the occupying force, the occupying army. We say in our prayers, those who pray regularly know in the Al-Anisim prayer, that there were few of us and there were many of them. We were righteous, they were wicked. And yet, we won. 2 miracles. There's a spiritual miracle and there's a physical miracle. The spiritual miracle, the oil lasted. The physical miracle was that we're able to do exactly what the borough president was talking about. Take action. Not just rely upon our prayers. God just doesn't want to have us rely upon our praying to Him. He wants us to do something. I can say this much, as my guys flanking me to the right and left know, that I have, as a citywide Jewish official, I have been to Staten Island more times over the past 5 years, let us say, than I have for the previous 30 years. And I've been in this business for that long. These guys are applauding, but they should be applauded for the role that they have done here in Staten Island to organize this community, to engage in such important activities, and particularly to protect this community, this Jewish community here in Staten Island. So, not to say that that's a miracle, but nonetheless, it's something which we took action on, which the community took action on, and that's the message of Hanukkah. Again, not just our belief in God and our prayers to God and our wishes for all the best things that can happen to us as a people, but it's that we do something about it, and it's just a pleasure for me. This is, as I mentioned, this is the 5th borough that I've done today.
Can't top that.
Right, and what do we say? And what do we say in Jewish tradition? In Hebrew, acharon acharon chaviv. The last is the most beloved. So having done Manhattan and then the Bronx and then Brooklyn and Queens, I know it should have been Queens and Brooklyn, but that's the order of the events. Brooklyn and then Queens, so your colleague Eric Adams, and then your colleague Belinda Katz, and then coming here and ending my day in Staten Island, which is really the heart and soul of New York. And certainly of the Jewish community. It's an honor to be here. I love all of you. Shalom. And
Hanukkah, the light, the menorah. Let's have a party with all the Torah. Gather around the table, we'll give you a treat. Everyone to play with their loved ones to eat. Violins are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shared, a sweet light to remind us of things
ata Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kidshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam she'asa nisim la'avoseinu bayamim hahem
Borough President and the others that spoke about the darkness. The darker it is outside, the brighter the lights shine. Let's focus on the positive. It's incredible. The public servants, our elected officials, the officials here in Staten Island, who are true public servants, and that's really what it's about. The Talmud says that a rabbi once, a sage once appointed two of his students for positions of leadership, and they demurred. They felt they weren't qualified, they weren't that ready for it. And he said, no, I'm not giving you leadership, I'm giving you servitude. Our public officials, our elected officials, view themselves as public servants, and we're very fortunate for that. They make it light here, and the darker it is, as much darkness as there is, they shine a light, and we're thankful, we're grateful to them, we're grateful to the Borough President, we're grateful to the Assembly members and the other officials who are here this evening, and thank you very much for making our holiday beautiful.
Once again, our dear friend Mendy, who represents the Council of Jewish Organizations on Staten Island, is here. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you, sir. Happy holidays to you, too.
Tell us about the importance of the lighting.
The importance of the lighting is it commemorates miracles. In Staten Island, we always bring the entire community together, and we celebrate with all the various communities Hanukkah in Borough Hall. And this year, in the wake of what happened in New Jersey, the terrible shooting, the tragic massacre, it's important to put faith in ourselves, not to allow fear and terror to hold us back from enjoying the holidays and the holiday spirits.
For those who may not be familiar, can you tell everyone about the origins of the menorah?
The origins of the menorah was one of the utensils that was in the Holy Temple. And it was lit every day. 7 lights were lit every day. And during Hanukkah, there was a shortage of oil, and there was sufficient oil for one day. But a miracle happened where the menorah went for another week, 8 days. Enough time to prepare additional oil for the fueling process. So hence we celebrate 8 days Hanukkah.
There's a lot of similarities between Hanukkah and other holidays here in that it celebrates the church. How important is the church in the Jewish faith?
All good people are important to us, and we're important to them. And the point, this common denominator, the common thread that unites us is celebrating light, life, liberty, justice, and fairness, and equality for all. And Hanukkah and all the co-religions that celebrate light, that's the message of hope in the season.
What do you feel the people have wrong about the Jewish faith?
People sometimes think that the Jewish faith is a restrictive faith, just about observance. But the Jewish religion is more than observance, but celebration, bringing communities together, bringing people together, and enjoying that holiday spirit with all.
You represent a very important organization here on Staten Island, which is COJO of SI. For those who may not be familiar, what is the Council of Jewish Organizations?
COJO is the umbrella group that brings together all the various synagogues, nearly all the Jewish organizations in this borough, and with the united voice of the community. We try to solve community problems and express community concerns in a civic forum. And we outreach with our governmental officials, our agency officials, and our brothers and other communities to work together for a better island, for a better borough.
What is the number one issue that the Staten Island Jewish community is facing?
The same issue that the entire community right now in New York is the fear of the rising hate crimes and anti-Semitic incidents.
What would you like to see happen in regards to these hate crimes, aside from the obvious?
Well, I would like to see more education, with people to realize that sometimes when they do certain acts, how it affects others, and people should be more sensitive, more respectful. We live in a culture, sometimes an environment sometimes, that we cut each other off by a red light. We do other acts of rudeness, take a step back and forward. How can we be more respectful? By making ourselves better people will affect society, make society better as a large.
Mendy, great to see you again. Thank you so much. Happy Hanukkah to you and good luck to you.
Thank you. God bless. Have a good night. Thank you for coming.